Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona and the summer plants, the summer shrubs and trees that you planted 3 months ago. They are in all their glory this week. This is when they're really looking good. They love this start of the monsoonal humidity, the cloud cover, the warmth. It's the clouds that come up. They kind of blanket those summer plants in warmth. And so it gets more muggy. You kind of felt that this week. And then there was a break this week. It felt cooler. Then it warmed back up. These summer plants love that. And then, if every once in a while you give them an afternoon rainstorm, they just explode with new blossoms. And here are the ones that look their best right now. The crepe myrtles have started to bloom, and they are fabulous. There's nothing like a crepe myrtle shrub for the mountains of Arizona. The tree form does not really perform well. Now, I say that for Prescott and above. I would say 5,000 foot level. Let's say Prescott Valley, Payson, and above, up to about 7,000 foot level. These plants, they're going to get burned back, and they act more like a perennial than they do a shrub. So they'll get burned back every once in a while. Whereas the lower elevations, let's say Spring Valley, Cordes Junction, Camp Verde, Kingman, the 5,000 and below, let's say 3,000 to 5,000 foot level, there the trees will actually perform. So it doesn't get as cold in the winter. If a crepe myrtle goes down to 10 degrees, 0 degrees, it'll burn back to the ground, and then it will come back fresh with strength, with vigor from the roots, and just be this beautiful shrub that's in full bloom. If it gets that low, if it doesn't get that low, it'll start to turn into a tree like your traditional, let's say, Southern or Texan, or they're famous for their crepe myrtle trees. If you're in this higher elevation, I would say better choices if you want a tree form are the catalpas and desert willows. These plants love summer, and they can go down to minus 40 degrees, some crazy cold, something we never see in northern Arizona. They just bloom, and they get this beautiful orchid-shaped flower all over the foliage, all over the tree form. Gets up to about 20 feet. I would say high teens is where they bloom. They've been in bloom for a month now, and so they'll keep blooming for us until fall hits. And so through sometime in October, they'll finally start to show some color, that magical kind of gold color. And then they'll drop their leaves, and then it's just they rest for a winter. Then they'll come back and do it again next summer. The chase trees or vitex in full bloom. Beautiful, spiky, almost like a lilac type of flower, covered in blue flowers. So the tops are just covered in blue, where the butterflies, from swallowtails to monarchs to painted ladies to butterflies, just love this flower. Hummingbirds love this tree or tall shrub up to about maybe 10 to 15 feet tall. Magical. If you want the same exact color, the other summer shrub that looks so good right now is Coreopteris or false spirea. It's blooming blue all around town, and it's got a spirea leaf. Kind of tricks me sometimes. I'm going, oh, that's a spirea. Oops, wait a minute. Spirea doesn't come in that color blue. It can't be, so it's got to be Coreopteris. So it's a shrub about just above knee-high to hip-high, somewhere in there. Call it 3 feet. And just covered in blue right now. Just stunning blue flowers. Of course, the most famous of all of the mountain shrubs, the hardiest, the toughest, almost the weediest, is Russian sage. This is one that gets up about, not chest high, I would say hip high, covered in blue spiky flowers. So the foliage you don't really see. It's just got so many flowers on top. It's got kind of silver foliage, but the silver foliage on the stems with this blue flower really is striking. And it will hold that color through fall. So by October, something like that, 1st of November, it's done blooming, kind of defoliates, and then it just kind of is it's a twiggy thing out there in the yard that you hardly even notice. But that's when the evergreens. I always plant with some of these summer shrubs. I'll plant some evergreens strategically in that same bed or part of the landscape. So when they finally go deciduous, that is, lose their leaves, the evergreens like cotoneasters and euonymus and nandinas, if you plant these things strategically together, you get this evergreen anchoring with this magical summer, just glorious color. So this is when some of the best colors of the gardens come out of the entire year. That's these plants. The hibiscus, or rose of Sharon, that's the hardy hibiscus up here. Actually, there's two. The tall shrub is rose of Sharon. It's hibiscus family. So the flowers are smaller than you folks are used to in the deserts or the tropical areas. They'll be maybe only 4 or 5 inches across instead of the ones that are as big as your hand. But they make up for it in sheer quantity and a lot of colors to choose from. So we've got probably, I don't know, half dozen varieties of colors of rose of Sharon's, all of them starting to show color right now in the landscapes. And they prefer to be planted when it's warm. These plants, when they really show off, that's when they like to be planted. They're used to that environment. That's when they kind of go, okay, this is when I'm going to do my thing. We're gonna propagate, and we're going to mate with each other. We're going to really go after it in the landscape out there. Let's just bloom. And if you buy one and plant it in the yard, they just kind of go with the flow with that whole summer landscape thing. So I would say it's okay to plant those right now, even though it's 90 degrees in the mountain country, which is blistering hot for mountain folks. It's not very hot for your landscape. As long as your irrigation's tuned up and you're ready to go and we get some afternoon rains, you're good to go. Don't worry. This is a second planting season. This is when you should have some summer blooming things in the yard just to give your yard some diversity. This is hard for you Southern California folks. You're used to green. I only want green things in the yard, nothing but green. Well, if you commit to all green, you got great green, but you don't get this color pop. If you blend them together, you really look good. All spring blooming. If you just shop at the garden center, in the spring, you'll get lilacs and forsythias and flowering quince and all these great spring blooming, but then nothing else. You don't have this extra long color season. So you need to blend some spring blooming with the summer blooming, and most of those will give you some fall color, and then you'll get some winter evergreens. So you're thinking through your season so they're always cycling through. But this is when you head to your garden center and you see the best of the colors, the brightest colors. Now, I wouldn't say the most fragrance. The spring bloomers are more famous for their fragrance. But the summer bloomers, they are more famous for their just stunning colors. And I think they're trying to attract the butterflies and the hummingbirds and the pollinators in the yard. In the spring, there's less competition, so they do it with fragrance. I'm one of the few things in bloom. I'll just wow the pollinators with my fragrance. And then in the summer, everything's in bloom. Everything looks good. So how do you get that? How do you attract more hummingbirds and butterflies and pollinating birds and moths to you to help you make whoopee with your neighbors next door? Well, you do it with bright colors. They've never seen this color before. Crepe myrtle red. Whoa, here you go. Or I'm going to make up for it with this blue hydrangea. Oh, hibiscus. Ah. And so they're just brighter colors this time of year. And they're all in bloom. You drive through your neighborhood. If you don't know what it is, take a picture, bring it to the nursery. We can identify it like that. Just instantly. And so bring it in. So if you just come in and describe, I saw this thing blooming in the yard. Well, we just went over a half dozen of them. That's just touching the surface right now. We can guide it in. Or you'll come in going, I saw it. I know what it is. I'll see it when it's in bloom. Well, the problem is when they're in bloom at the nursery, they sell like candy to gardeners. So they're gone. And so it'll be another 3 days for the next batch starts to bloom. So a camera, with a phone. Just camera phones. We all have them. Use them. We can ID that plant in a heartbeat. We've got a lot in store this show for you, including how to deal with grasshoppers. They're taking over. Be right back.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our Purple Magic Crepe Myrtle.
You'll be wowed by the sheer amount and intensity of the purple blossoms that shadow this impressive bush.
Leaves emerge as bold red foliage in spring and then turn bright green just as the purple flowers erupt in summer.
It blooms twice, first in summer, then again in autumn. And at $39, you can have more than one in the gardens.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love to garden, they love to shop. Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our timeless beauty desert willow tree.
Large, fragrant burgundy and lavender flowers appear in big, bold clusters all summer long.
This unique water selection is prized for its extra long bloom time without the need of seed pods.
The flowers are highly attractive to hummingbirds, 100% Arizona native and just $59.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love their native plants to really bloom, they love to shop.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Welcome back to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
So your tan is looking terribly good. Terribly good. That's like looking super fantastic. How about that?
Thank you. That's better.
Lake time on the water with the grandkids. Went up to Lake Powell, and we found out that 2 of our 3 grandkids love boating and the water and swimming, and you got to make sure life vests are on them all the time because they are in the water nonstop. You better pull them out and feed them every once in a while. They get grumpy and mean, and then they're right back in the water, and one of them, doesn't care. Whatever.
He likes to swim. He's not real fond of the boat. He doesn't like to go fast on the boat. But he doesn't mind going out and swimming. And,
it's true. Anyway, it's just fun to see the different kids. So.
Kind of like our dogs. One loves the water.
We have a black Labrador Retriever that would live in the water, basically. Would just put my life vest on. Could you feed me right here? Could you put a life vest on my food bowl and I just never come out? And the Schnauzer?
Not so
There's
much.
no interest in water whatsoever.
None.
Gets nervous when anyone else is in the water. What is that?
Yeah, she's kind of crazy. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I don't know about that one either. Well, we're still a puppy. We're still training her.
I know. But
we're going to go camping next month on Lake Powell, see how that goes. And we'll get more beach
we'll see
time.
if I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, this is about garden questions. What are folks asking about? We're starting to see lots of activity out there.
Yeah.
With pictures, someone just helping someone with the column. They brought in the newspaper going, what is this? They had budworm on their flowers.
Gotcha.
Let me show you. Here it is.
Stuff is out there.
Yep.
It's amazing to me what gets brought in. I'm like, what the heck is it? I just identified an azalea lacewing. I'm like, azalea lacewing bug.
Really?
It's a bug that goes after azaleas and rhododendrons only. I've never seen it before.
Now, lacewing generally is a good guy.
This one's not a good guy.
A lacewing comes in good and bad. Really?
Yes.
I think they call
it a lacewing just because of the way the leaves are real lacy looking.
Yeah.
But weird looking critter. Never seen it before. Threw it into the microscope. I have no idea. Found it. It's an azalea lacewing bug. Bad. Yeah. Don't want it.
It'll eat your buds, basically.
It takes the chlorophyll out of the leaf.
Oh, so it turns yellow.
Really? With all these little spotted yellows and stuff. Bizarre.
Neat. This year we're seeing some weird things we've never seen before because of all the moisture we had earlier. And I think with the summer rains, it'll like compound effect on it. It'll intensify. So it will get worse. So, which is for us, we get bored. So we like seeing bugs.
Oh, I love to figure out new things. What is that? What could it be?
If I had to do it over again, I think I would become an entomologist.
An entomologist or an entomologist?
Entomologist. and I would only study ants. I just like bugs, figuring out what makes them tick. Mm-hmm. But then I'd always be out in fields of cotton or something. It'd be boring.
You would. You couldn't handle it. You have to have people.
I like the diversity here in retail because you've seen every kind of freakish bug. Someone finds something and they go, "What is it?" I'm going, "I don't know, but this will kill it." Here you go.
Just step on it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that's right. Grasshoppers, no problem. Stomp.
Well, that leads to one of our first questions is grasshoppers. So Linda is out in Prescott Valley. She's seeing grasshoppers of all sizes starting to arrive. And her question is, are we going to have like Las Vegas proportion grasshoppers? And if so, what do you do?
Yeah, so the on the internet, on the social media feed, you're seeing Las Vegas is being overrun by waves, pulsating waves. This is like biblical proportions. Like the sky is turning, the moon has gone dark because of grasshoppers. Yes, that's happening there, and yes, it's coming here. The deserts always start first because they're warmer, and so then it will migrate up the hill, and we'll finally see the same thing. So I predict grasshoppers will overrun, especially the valley areas where there's lots of grass. They're gonna be bad. Will they be that bad? I don't know. Yeah. Will they be bad enough to eat all your gardens? Yes, they will. They will get that bad. And they get chubby out there in Prescott Valley. They get
those big fat ones.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much food they have to eat before they get that big. A lot of gardens. It's mainly the grasslands. So easy to solve. You should be worried. You should be proactive on this. Don't be reactive, because then we're getting into heavy chemicals and you spray them and they'll die. It's still waves are coming at you. The secret is, here's what we're doing at the garden center, because we know it's going to be bad, and we got as much value in the inventory here as the value of most people's houses, even the large ones. That's a lot of money waiting to be eaten by bugs. So what we're doing, we went through this week, killed off all the weeds on the property, and we're helping the neighbors a little bit. We'll just kind of create this demarcation line that's very defined, get rid of all bugs, because weeds are what bring them in. That's their natural thing. Then we went through and we sprinkled strategically no-low bait, N-O-L-O, no-low bait around the nursery. So we're looking not in the nursery. We put it outside of the gardens, not in they're drawn to it. But this wheat, it's basically Wheaties, and we've laced this wheat with a virus. And so they're drawn to it. They're going, "Oh, that looks free meal. I'm going after it." They eat it. The virus starts to infect their body. It takes them about a week to die. And then any eggs they lay, which is important, will be infected. And then when they die, other grasshoppers come and eat them, and it just spreads. It just naturally spreads. It's like the plague, only for grasshoppers only. Birds aren't affected. Your pets aren't affected.
And crickets.
Crickets. Yeah, crickets and grasshoppers. That's it. And so it's a good way to get ahead of them. But if you wait, you want to get them while they're small in that fry stage. I would say 3/4 inch minus. That stage you can really make a dent in them fast. If everything is huge, fully mature grasshoppers, it still works, but it's mainly working for next year. It affects their eggs that they're laying and gets rid of them. So you do get about a couple of year benefit from this, but you really want to catch it early. Don't wait. Everyone gets so reactive.
Yeah.
But if you do react and just the walls are filled with grasshoppers, spraying with multi-purpose insect spray, and that'll wipe them right out. You hit them, they'll die, and they'll quiver. Right now, it's kind of fun to watch them all drop and die in a heap. But still, you get more waves. The next morning, more waves will come at you. No-low bait will permeate, will get through the populations and help your neighbors too. So that's what we're doing here at the nursery with our own gardens. That's how you attack grasshoppers.
Okay. They're coming.
They're coming. They're here, actually.
Well, our next question is about mushrooms. So Anne-Marie has mushrooms growing in the soil in her vegetable garden. She wants to know, is that harmful to the vegetables? Is it harmful to the soil? Are they okay there? What do you do?
It's always confusing, huh? You're raised as a kid, never eat mushrooms. It can kill you, especially ones with spots and colors. These are other families go out and harvest them in the forest. So mushrooms are very much good for the gardens. There's a symbiotic thing that happens in the soil. They're breaking down the organics, the manures, and the compost, and that's what brought them in. And so they're helping you break that down. They break it down faster, and as they break it down, now it releases nutrients back to your vegetable garden. So there's this very symbiotic thing that happens. Usually in the forest, they're actually breaking down old tree trunks and old big piles of ancient trees that were sawed down or fell down decades and decades ago. They're finally coming in to help compost the rest of it, and then they feed the rest of the forest. They do the same thing with your vegetable plants or your flower beds or your anywhere in the landscape. In fact, I'll take them. I think they're beautiful. I leave them, and so we'll enjoy them, look at them, and then once they start dying, I'll cut them down. I'll actually place them in the gardens around because it's the best nutrients you can have. Mushroom compost is the best. You could just never find enough of it.
Right.
But boy, if you can take some decomposed, what they're doing in the garden is good, and then as they finally die and dehydrate, they're even better. And so very much, don't be worried. Enjoy them for what they are, and they're creating a benefit. They seem to like compost piles, flower beds, and vegetable gardens because you're loading up nutrients in those beds. So they're helping you out. Great questions this week. Okay, Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Ken Lane, a.k.a. the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens.
I hate weeds. Monsoon rains are so refreshing, even my landscape comes alive, but so do my weeds. Stop weeds in their track in one simple step. Waters Weed and Grass Stopper spreads like fertilizer. It kills weed seed before monsoon rains allow them to sprout. No need to weed. It's safe for trees, even flower beds, and so much safer than that toxic waste the big box sells. Weed and Grass Stopper, it's just $24 and only found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Hi, Ken, with our Vine of the Week and our Arizona Sunset Trumpet Vine.
Huge, deep red flowers cluster to create a dramatic summer show.
This vigorous vine thrives and blooms with near neglect.
Fast growing to cover chain link fence, shade structures, and trellis quick.
Easy to train as a ground cover up a rock face to hold soils from erosion, and just $34.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love vines that bloom red, they love to shop. You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
This is very exciting. So I've been going through the nursery and pruning back or training, really it's not pruning back, training the trees so that they grow in the right direction, grow in the right shape. Well, I've got Felco pruners. Felco is kind of the industry standard for the best pruner on the market. The blades hold their shape, hold their edge better than any other pruner out there. That's my opinion. It's also the opinion of the entire industry. So there's Coronas and some others out there, but Felcos, they're expensive, but it's a tool. If you're in the industry, you just need a good tool. If you're an amateur and you just want to mimic the tools the professionals are using, get some Felcos. They're going to cut through even oak and the strongest of woods without having to leverage things. And I've made thousands of cuts, literally just shaping these trees so they grow in the canopy will grow in the right directions. From fruit trees to now I'm on to evergreens. Well, exciting news. I just found some new blades from Israel. Oh, God, you got to love the Israelis. They know gardening they're right up there with the Japanese. The Asians know how to garden. They introduce a lot of the new plants that we see. They've created this stuff. Well, a lot of the new drip irrigation, pruning products coming out now are from Israel, of all places. They've been famous for decades now. Well, they just came out with a new titanium blade for my Felco pruners. I've got 2 of them coming on order. They're coming from Israel direct. I just can't wait. I'll have them next week. I'll have reports on how they cut compared to the American-made Felco steel. Anyway, gardeners get kind of funky with hats, gloves, and their tools. And I just ordered them online, got them coming in. So I'll give you a report on those. But training your trees. Now is the time when you do want to start trimming back all that new growth from spring and early summer, some plants like Japanese maples, they can look overgrown. They can look mangy. They just start gnarly. They start growing into each other. You need to open these things up so you force them to be beautiful. And so that's for us. You're coming to buy at Waters Garden Center, our place in the marketplace. This is our strategic plan. This is where we want to be. If you want us to be something else, we go, nah, that's not of no interest. We don't want to be the low-priced leader because that's why the box stores exist. You can't, they're going to flood the market with the top 10 products. They're going to bore you to death with red tip photinia and Andina domestica, the original one, not the new ones. And so you just kind of go, I can't compete with that. They buy a farm of, 1,000-acre farm, and they just ship them to all 5,000 stores. I'm going, I'm not going to, and it's not fun. So I'm going, I'm into this for fun, not just money. I got to feed a few families, but I'm after it for the interest, the gardening aspect of it. So you're coming to us in the marketplace for a better product, a larger canopy on your tree, for fruit trees that are of fruiting age. So we'll hold them for 2-3 extra years. So on average, our trees are probably 7 years old. Some of the big ones, we just had some big 24-inch boxed instant maples, instant purple leaf plums. They're gorgeous. They're expensive, but they've been at the farm for like 10, 12 years. We've been working on these for a decade. And now we bring them in. We go, you can't find this anywhere else. Ew, this is here to look. And we've trained these things over the decade to have this perfect shape. Now you can put it in your landscape and just go, oh, instant tree. It looks like it was planted 10 years ago. And it's got great form. And so from there, it will just be filling out more and more beautiful. An ugly tree, you cannot make beautiful. It's just, if it's got a dog leg, if it's got a broken side or an ugly side, it's never going to recover. So that's where you really do want to hand pick your trees. I would say from evergreens to fruit trees to shade trees. You really want to hand pick those. Well, 3 of these are included in your package, your front yard. Yeah, okay, great. 3 are included. But I want to go to the farm and hand tag each tree. Shrubs, not as much. Flowers, it doesn't matter. But trees are where the value in your landscape truly is. This is where it adds to or declines. If you've got a half-dead willow tree in your front yard, you're going to try to sell your house, forget it. People are going to come in, look at that, going, I don't want to pay someone to come in and drop that on my neighbor's house and create chaos. And pass. I'll go to the next house. They don't want to see half-grown, half-ugly, they don't want to see your old tree house that you built for the kids 15 years ago. They don't want to see that and have to remove it and maintenance. People don't want maintenance issues. But if you get this beautiful maple, an aspen clusters that just is thriving, it adds to the value of that house. And there's proof you'll get 12, 15% price increase for a great landscape. So this is where trees, you really do want to hand pick those. You having your landscaper doing? Hey, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you at the nursery. I want to hand pick with you. Oh, I'll do it for you. Don't do that. Do it yourself. Trust me. Anyway, got more in store for you right after this. You're listening to The Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Waters with this week's Plant of the Week and our black satin blackberries.
A thornless, milky smooth blackberry that loves the Arizona sun and produces the most deliciously sweet, deep blackberries.
Soft pink flowers cover the nimble canes and then yield hordes of the most delicious, juicy blackberries a gardener could hope for.
Ready to plant in just $19 and only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Where people who love to grow the sweetest berries love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the Plants of the Week and our black lace elderberry.
Tense purple foliage is finely cut for a dramatic effect.
Creamy pink flowers contrast nicely with the purple leaves.
The red berries are edible and make delicious elderberry wine, jams, or just left on the bush to attract birds.
A dramatic accent are planted as a trouble-free head-high hedge and just $17.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love their elderberries, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we're back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week mainly because
You make
one
me.
guy on the board. Well, I make you. And just trying to give some diversity. We need some more than just one guy on the radio talking about gardening for an hour. What are your problems? Let's talk about tomatoes and grass. That's it. That's all the other shows you hear out there. I was trying to create something more interesting. And there's no one more interesting in my life than my wife of 32 years we celebrated this week.
We did. Thank you, my
years of
dear.
marriage.
32.
Yeah, July 25th.
Yes.
So it's, I guess, last week. July. Well, anyway,
We'll
whenever
just keep
the
carrying
25th
it on.
was.
Yeah.
Keep celebrating. So we were up on Lake Powell with the whole family, had a big celebration. Yeah. Gifts were exchanged. Hugs were done. And then we were surrounded by grandkids. So 32 years. That says something. Yeah. Would you imagine 32 years ago we'd be where we're at today?
No.
Garden center owners,
Would
grandkids.
never, if you'd asked me, what do you think your life's going to be like? I would have never said 4 kids, own a garden center, live in Prescott. But I'm glad. I'm happy.
I'm
it's good.
thinking it's even better than I thought it was going to be. That's the answer. You get people on the airwaves. What kind of answer is that? Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, you didn't know. When we first got married, you were in banking.
That's true, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we were thinking big
Right out of
cities.
college.
And who knew I was going to teach, and life changes.
Yeah, I was in corporate America, and we didn't think about the family business coming back.
No, not at
We got
all.
tired of corporate America and did come back. And then you're a special ed teacher. That's you went through ASU, got certification, got it going, and then we started having kids, and we prioritized and said, you know what, we can make it on one income. We'll have you be a
I was a stay-at-home mom.
Stay-at-home mom.
I loved it.
Through 4 kids, and finally came back into the business by then, and came right back without skipping a beat, and helped us grow the garden center at that point. So it's been a good ride.
Has been.
It's
Terrific.
only getting better.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. It is.
What kind of?
I don't know. It's questioning you. See if you really believe what you're saying.
Okay, seems like you have some questions.
No,
But I like it.
It's great.
Okay, so my favorite gal. We go back to where we started from. Donut Effect. You're the most interesting person in my life.
Donuts. That is
Dunkin' Donuts just opened out in Prescott Valley. There you go.
donuts. There we go. Okay, but we're not here for donuts or marital advice, any of that stuff. So I want to talk about. So last week, before we left for the houseboat, you were out in the nursery yard furiously working away.
Yeah, training the trees.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you were kind of cleaning up some of the trees and shaping them and just giving them some TLC, which is what you like to do this time of year.
I do.
So you were doing the fruit trees. And it occurred to me, there's always this big rush in the spring. Everybody's going, fruit trees, fruit trees, fruit trees. I mean, I don't know how many we saw in the spring. And it's a great time to put them in the spring, and you get to see their blossoms, and they're beautiful. But, we're moving into that amazing time to plant things. So if you were thinking fruit trees at all, now's an excellent time to be putting them in.
I think it's almost better now. I mean, because, especially after they've gone through. So you saw some spring growth. So sometimes they're kind of, you can't see the shape in the spring, but you're buying them before they leaf out, and it's the best time. Supposedly, it's the best time. I think in the mountains of Arizona, where we have a monsoonal season, I think now's the best time, especially if the trees have been touched or trained after their spring growth. They start growing to the inside, the outside, down, up. They're all over them. They get this personality and going, okay, no, you're not doing that. Not on my watch. We're going to train you to do this. Have this separate scaffolding or training them to have this weight or way to distribute all the weight of the fruit. And then actually we picked off all the fruit. There's not one fruit on all of our fruit trees.
You did what?
Because it's either fruiting or it's rooting.
Right.
And so I
it hurt me to pull them off, but there's apples and fruit. They're just loaded with apples. All of our trees are of fruiting age, but we don't want them fruiting for our customers. We want them rooting. And so next year, have them load up with fruit.
Right.
And so we'll have a class on that. Is how many should you thumb prune? Should we keep all the fruit on? Should you thin some out? How should you shape it? We've got pruning classes, but for now, you plant one now that's been shaped. It's been TL'd seed, like you said. Now you plant it with the monsoon rains. They just root to the end of the year, and you get a much better tree.
Come spring.
Next spring, you get a much stronger tree by planting now.
Sure.
So anyway, that's my take.
No,
I've
agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So I thought I would talk about a few of the trees that we have available.
Okay.
And that would be great to put in. So peach trees, and I love putting in peach trees because I think they have the prettiest blossoms.
They do.
That's
Yeah,
just my
pretty.
opinion.
Pretty tree.
It is. It's a beautiful tree, self-pollinating. So if you have a small yard or you only want one fruit tree, peach would definitely be one that you could throw in there. We have Reliance. Now, all the peaches that we have can tolerate our winters and our cold springs. So they have a high chill hour. So that out of the way. So Reliance is, one thing about Reliance is if you like to eat fresh peaches, Reliance is the one for you. Because it's just got a really nice flavor right off the tree. You just pick it and eat it right when you're sitting outside.
You're making my mouth water. Must
I
be
know.
lunchtime or something. Also, Reliance, I think, has Reliance, Frost, and Ranger. Those are the three varieties that have the longest chill hours. So they bloom later in spring. So other varieties bloom a little bit sooner, so they're more exposed to possible frost damage. These, Reliance. It's reliable Reliance. It always fruits for you every year.
I think it has like 1,000 chill hour
it's a lot.
kind of thing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Red Haven is another one that's beautiful. Red Haven's better if you like to can or you like to freeze. Those type of things. It's a better peach for that. So, and everybody has their thing that they like to do with them.
I think of
Could
Red
you
Haven
eat
as
it? Yes, you could. But
I think of it as like an Alberta, only with that red skin on the outside. It's a really pretty fruit.
It is.
Crazy
It is
pretty.
very, very pretty. And speaking of Albertas, of course, we have Albertas.
Of course.
And I love their blossom. I think they have a darker pink, almost red blossom to them. I just love the way they bloom. And, of course, they're good for eating fresh, freezing, canning, whatever you want to do. Albertas are great for it. And then we also have some veteran peaches. And most people probably haven't heard veteran peach.
Until now.
But when they do taste tests, blind taste tests, veteran peach always comes out really, really high.
Yeah.
So definitely one to try if you want to do a peaches. And apples, of course, apples do wonderful
Probably
here.
the number one best producing year after year. Apples are it. Number one. If you're only going to go with one variety, go with apples.
Right.
Because they produce consistently every year.
That's true. And we have a nice variety of apples out there. I just kind of hit on a few, and we've got more than what I'm talking about. But Macintosh is an old one, been around forever. It's that kind of red and green one. It's kind of a standard, but really nice, crisp flavor, but sweet. It's not a tart, but nice and crisp. It's good cooked and raw. Gravenstein, another great one, nice and tart. People love it for pies and ciders and that kind of thing. We have Honeycrisp. Everybody loves a Honeycrisp, right? Fuji's, Granny Smith's, all those those ones that are great for eating fresh or for cooking. We got an apple for every taste that you might like.
We do have a good apple selection.
We do. And we have some great pears. We have red Bartlett pears, also
that's
known
neat.
as a sensation pear.
Yeah.
We have a summer crisp pear, which is a nice one because it's very fire blight resistant. And almost no fire blight in those at all. So it's a really
the only real
nice
issue
one.
that plant gets.
Yeah.
Well, some codling moths in the fruits sometimes, but those are really tough plants. And pears produce very consistent, kind of like pears and apples produce consistently each year. We in the mountains of Arizona, you can almost count on them to fruit every year.
Mm-hmm. Very good. My mouth just watered. I want to go bake a pie.
Yeah, I want you to bake a pie.
Have I ever made a pie?
I don't know. You're more of a cake baker. I love your cookies.
Back on the boat, we had Chips Ahoy cookies. I'm going, these just aren't the same chocolate chip cookies.
They're not.
As my wife's chocolate chip cookie, or your no-bake chocolate oatmeal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Sugar in a cookie, yeah.
Yeah, that is super good stuff. So, fruit trees, you can also plant plums.
Oh, definitely. Cherries.
Apricots, nectarines. They're all in stock, and I'm sure we missed some grapes and brambles and berries. They're all good to go in now. Good summer planting now through the fall of the year. You're in the sweet spot for great fruit tree plantings in the mountains of Arizona. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners will be right back.
Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Podcast the show, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook and Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com.
Hi, Waters with the plants of the week and our local chase tree.
Fragrant lilac blooms cover this tree that can also be pruned into a tall bush and blooms all summer long.
No special skills needed for this bloomer. Easy to grow, heat-loving, low-water user, and disease-free.
These are really nice bushes for $39. We also have very tall trees in bloom for an impressive $120.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love local blooming trees, they love to shop.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our little Janie Gara.
Little Janie is a charmer with flowers that float above this 15-inch plant.
The fluorescent pink flowers will wow the hummingbirds with Janie's charm as well.
Hummingbirds throughout the neighborhood will visit your plants. They're just so popular and only $14.
She thrives in hot, dry gardens and only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Where people who love their native plants to be beautiful and hassle-free, they love to shop.
Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
Now, at the bottom of the hour, I was discussing trees. I'd been training, was excited about my Velcro pruners, new blades coming in, made out of titanium. I can't believe they're making pruners with titanium blades. It has to keep its blade edge longer, but we'll see. Maybe I can never sharpen it again. Then I went into a tree diatribe. I apologize. I'm passionate about plants and trees and form and shape and quality, but we didn't touch really on the evergreens. We're seeing this wave of customers coming in, and they're after privacy screens. They want to have a living wall that will block out a neighbor's new, deck or hot tub, or the neighbors keep looking in while you're having dinner or in the living, whatever. If you need some privacy, plants are an easy way to do it, and very affordable compared to, a fence, a cedar fence or whatever, at $15 a linear foot or block, even more. So you can do plants for a fraction of that price, and they'll grow in. Here's a technique that I was just helping a customer with. They were looking at aspens, and they wanted to block off. They wanted 3 aspens to block off this neighbor above them. Fast growing. They loved the color. They had a new hot tub. The neighbors keep coming out, flipping lights on. They just wanted screening out there, mainly during the growing season. In the winter, they felt like it wasn't as much of a problem. Okay, here. And there's this whole wall of aspens we have. They were really tall. They were probably 15 feet tall. And we had 2 price points, really big ones and small ones. They go, which ones should we get? I said, well, if you're trying to trying to be frugal with the landscape budgets, get the big one for the most egregious views. So plop the biggest one right there where they seem to be showing up, and then put your smaller ones on either side. So you can blend. You don't have to go the same size every time. You can change a big one with a small one. And went, oh, that's a great idea. And then they bought 3 big ones. I don't know why. I get scratch my head sometimes with folks. But okay. I do that quite often, actually, with evergreens. Evergreens are generally more expensive at the nurseries because they take longer to fill in and to grow. A deciduous tree, that's a tree that loses its leaves, they tend to grow faster. So you can get a 15-foot aspen for $200-300. You can't get a 15. I've got 15-foot spruce coming in. they're going to be $1,000. They're 4 times as expensive because they're 4 times as old. And they're going to be fuller and fatter and chubbier. And they're just evergreens take longer to fill in, especially a nice one. And at the nurseries, we've got more loss with evergreens. Probably makes sense because they're just older. You've got attrition. 10% of them will fail, or they just aren't as pretty as they should be. So we kind of make the call going, you're out. You're in the burn pile or the compost heap or the grinder pile, and these few remain, and we plant accordingly. We plan for that attrition, but we only want the perfect specimens, especially if you're coming into your independent nurseries. That's our niche in the marketplace. So we've got the perfect, better quality, larger, more diversity. That's how we compete and go head-to-head with the boxes and the marts out there. We can compete. We're doing well. Growth is happening. And all the buddies from the White Mountains to Flagstaff to Payson, we're all doing well. And so we're in this growth phase. And so we do it by knowing who we are and trying to fill that. Evergreens, though, here are some of the mountain choices you really want to focus on first if you need a living screen. First and foremost, junipers. Well, hold on. I know I got allergies. I can't deal with junipers. Oh my God, I don't want allergies. The ornamental junipers you get that you're used for screening, these are hybrid varieties. We bred out a lot of the pollen. So you don't have the allergic reactions to them like you do the alligator or shaggy bark junipers. Quite honestly, we're surrounded by some of the largest juniper forests in the country. They're right here. And if you've got an allergic reaction to junipers, your one little plant isn't going to make any difference. You've got a mountainside coming at you when the pollen starts to flow. Your back patio and deck's just covered in yellow pollen. And so the wind picks it up and carries it. But junipers do well here because we're surrounded by juniper forests, so they're going to naturalize really well. So that's one that Lisa and I chose because we wanted an easy care type of landscape. So we chose Spartan junipers. We wanted green because the rest of the yard is kind of blue colors. We wanted green. So we chose Spartans, and they're starting to fill in. We zigzagged them up and down the front street so we can create this secret garden in the front yard. If you wanted the same exact plant in blue, you'd go with Wichita blue juniper. Same height, 6 feet, 8 feet tall, chubby, 4 foot wide, and you plant them accordingly. But you can go blue, green. Sometimes you can get a gold, although some of the gold evergreens can burn. They can burn on one side, the south side. So you got to watch your irrigation a little bit better with that. The next most valued or most planted is going to be Arizona cypress. So cypress is a native. It's a natural. It grows wild in the mountains of Arizona. Gets up to about 20 feet tall by 12 foot wide. Now that was too big for us in our front yard. Too much tree. I wanted no maintenance. I want to get them to size and then not water them again and just have them look good from that point forward. So we chose the junipers, Spartan junipers for us. But Arizona cypress, if you got a bigger property or you just need something big against that back fence line, the neighbor's up above you, you want it to go 20 feet tall, that's a great choice. Nice blue color to it. Now, we have been planting Leland cypress, a green variety of the same thing, and we found it's got a disease issue. So we no longer sell the green variety of that. We only sell the Arizonica, the native cypress that grows here. Kind of looks like a juniper, but instead of a berry, it puts on a cone, basically. Deodar cedar, it's a monster. It grows 50, 60 feet tall by 25 feet wide. Very few yards can actually handle this. It can obliterate a garden shed. I mean, just engulf it. It's like, where'd it go? It can engulf a small house that way, too. But that's one that's a fast grower. I would think for most yards, a better choice would be a Colorado spruce. It doesn't get as wide. It's a little more methodical on its growth, and there's dwarf varieties. Colorado spruce will go up to easily 40, 50 feet tall by about 12, 15 feet wide. They make a dwarf version of that same thing called Fat Albert spruce. I don't know why they use Fat Albert, but I'm sure it's probably Albert's the name, and probably he was fat. I have no idea, but he created this new tree. This is a dwarfed Colorado spruce. It gets up to 15 to in the teens, high teen height, maybe 10 feet wide. But it looks exactly, when it's younger, it looks exactly like a Colorado spruce, only with a little bit better or more silver kind of color to it. I mean, it's not green spruce. It's a bright blue, silvery color. But you got some choices with Colorados, and they naturalize. Once they get up to size, they just love growing at high altitudes. This is their natural, where they naturally grow. There's some spruce up on Spruce Mountain, of all things, right here in Prescott. Most up on Flagstaff. They just grow wild. The other one that's wild like that is conicolor fir or white fir. That's the native one. You'll see them growing, spruce and fir growing side by side in the same forest, wild. So get them up to size. They can go by themselves. I would say the best pine, everyone comes in wanting a ponderosa pine, but it's a terrible screening pine. Because it's all trunk, all the foliage is up there, not down here where you want it. A better choice, Austrian pine, far better choice. Still long-needled, same green color, but it holds its foliage right down to the ground, and so it just has this thicker, fuller look to it. So 35 feet tall by about 15 feet wide, central leader trunk, just a pine tree. It looks really good and thick. You're not going to see through that. Another one that's not used as much, it kind of looks like a pinyon pine, which we have those as well, but it's a Scotch pine. It has a little bit longer needle. It has more blue foliage, but has a thicker canopy to it and faster growing than a pinyon pine ever dreamed of growing. Those are some really good choices. That's one. Take a measurement. Tell us how far, and maybe even a picture. Bring it in. We can help you guide this thing through, and we can help you blend some evergreens with some deciduous plants in there. Evergreens with some aspens. Oh, that's a great look. Got some more advice right after this.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our tiger eye sumac.
You can't kill this native plant, and it's so fancy.
Chartreuse foliage quickly develops into lacy yellow leaves, which contrast nicely with the posy pink stems. All this turns the color of orange peels through autumn.
A dramatic focal point when planted as an accent at the edge of ponds and dry creek beds, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love fancy native plants love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the plants of the week and our dark beard spirea.
If you want butterflies, fragrant flowers, low-water plants that take little maintenance, then look at this dark blue wonder.
The dark bearded flowers only grow to knee-high and the perfect replacement for aggressive Russian sage, but equally as pretty. A big, bold plant is just $49.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love to garden, they love to shop. You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
Now, I was talking evergreens as privacies, what varieties are best. There's many more choices than that at the garden center. It's a good time to plant. If you're doing evergreens, I can advise you. I've personally, my name's Ken. We're just friends. We're talking over the back fence. This has worked for me. I've had 2 back surgeries. And so these big, heavy trees, I don't plant them anymore. Have your nursery do that. They've got a delivery planting crew. All they do is go install trees and shrubs. Evergreens. Generally, they are field grown, so they're ball and burlap. They've got a big, heavy root, so they're heavier than let's say, a shade tree or a fruit tree or a shrub. So that's one. Look at that price. It's probably worth it. For us here at Waters Garden Center, it's just us. Each nursery is a little different. So Plant Fair is going to be different in Payson. Warner's going to be different up in Flagstaff. Christopher's, they're going to be different over in the Pine Top, Lakeside areas. But for us, in that price, we include everything. So it's the labor, the delivery, the mulch, the food, the stakes. I mean, everything. Digging out big rocks, jackhammers. We just include it. Some folks, they just have, here's a price to put it in the ground. We provide nothing else. They come and dig a hole real quick, and if you want mulch or you want it staked, you want something else, you got to pay extra for that or ask for it. If that's the way, and make sure you ask for it. In the mountains of Arizona, you need to stake those trees for at least a year, even an evergreen, even a big, heavy evergreen, because our snows can come and that plant can load up. And so you've been rooting this thing out through the end of the year. So they'll root through the end of December. Then a big, heavy snow in February comes, and it loads up, and then it falls over, and you break every one of those new root hairs. You have to start all over again. It doesn't kill it at all. You just have to start over, and now you're 6 months behind. So you want to, even a large spruce, you want to stake it, 2 stakes, just to keep it upright, in case it loads up with some heavy weighted snow or hail. It can take that and stay upright. So you don't go backwards. You're always going forward. Just some tips I can give you. That, and if you're placing, here's the math for how many do I need for a true living wall privacy screen. Let's say I want to commit to Arizona cypress, 20 by 12 foot wide plant. What you do if you want that, let's say if you're on a busy intersection, you want all the traffic to go away and the noise to go away and the dust to go away. What you would do is you take the width, divide it by 2, and that's your spacing. So if it gets 12 foot wide, I would plant Arizona cypress at anywhere from 6 to 10 foot apart, all up and down that length. And what you'll get is this overlapping pattern, that at least the lower branches, so it will overlap where you'll see nothing, hear nothing, see no headlights, no no noise is going to come through up to about 10, 12 foot level. And then finally, because most of these things are cone shaped, finally it'll open up and you can start to see the tips of those things. But you want this overlapping pattern. Or you'll zigzag back and forth, kind of think triangular shapes. So we'll pack them in that tight, about every 6 to 10 feet. And so that's the math. That's how you figure out. We go over that on the garden class next weekend. Is that right? Let me look at that. Next weekend, we've got, secret gardens and privacy screens. August 10th, Saturday at 9:30. You want to see them, touch them, feel them, and go over the math together? Next weekend's garden class. This weekend was gardening for newcomers. Next weekend's at Secret Gardens, and it's attracting birds and bees, and it's herbal gardens from beginner to pro. That's the entire class schedule. Every Saturday at 9:30. They're free. We just want you to be a better gardener. Take a look at those at watersgardencenter.com or Facebook.com/Waters Garden Center, and look under the events tab. You Facebook folks, you know what to do. Anyway, it's Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. We're here every weekend. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Ken, with the plants of the week and our plumtastic muley grass.
Glittering clouds of vivid purple plumes emerge in late summer and persist through the end of the year.
It's a natural and showing off all its glory right now at the garden center.
A superb hillside plant, especially when situated so that the plumtastic flowers are backlit by the Arizona sunset, all for just $36.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For people who love plumtastic grass, they love to shop.
Hi, Lisa with the finds of the week and our Forester feathergrass.
Dramatic bronze flower spikes start blooming in early summer and don't stop until well into next year.
The flowers are so light and airy, it's often referred to as feathergrass.
Growing to just hip high, this dainty grass shows off enough to make a designer statement without being invasive. All for under $30.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love really pretty grass, they love to shop. If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.